Hey, it's Lemon. Hope you're doing well. 30-second announcement before the video starts for all of you Firebomb Academy scholars out there. Against my better judgment, we've created a throwable plushie. These official Firebomb Academy school supplies have gone through rigorous testing to make sure that they're the proper size, weight, and sensitivity for your everyday throwing needs. Equally effective against all targets, you can chuck them at your friends, enemies, loved ones, or Carl. If you want one for yourself, go ahead and click on the second link in the description. In Igni Confidemus. Now back to the video.
Ashen One, hearest thou my voice still?
Ah, shit. Here we go again. Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. After decimating the NPC populations of Dark Souls 1 and 2, it's only natural that we finish the fight with Dark Souls 3. This is the last revival of the First Flame after all. We can't have those pesky NPCs just existing for all eternity. Someone needs to put them to rest. And it's not like there's a Scythe in Demon Souls or Bloodborne, so once we're done with this run, we can officially check this weapon off our list. What are you doing? Don't do that. Why are you doing that? Come on, that's Extra Life. You can't believe them. Stop! So, with the end finally in sight, it's time to find out. Can you beat Dark Souls 3 with only Scythes? So, let's talk about the Scythes. There's a few of them in Dark Souls 3, and unsurprisingly, they're all pretty good. So, as per usual, we're gonna spice things up throughout the run. Not only do we have to kill every single boss in the game, which shouldn't be much of an issue, but we also have to kill every single NPC in the game. So hopefully you'll get to see some weapons and dialogue that you haven't seen before. But first, let's talk about our starting weapon. Dark Souls 3, unfortunately, is very linear, and there's no way to naturally get a Scythe without killing a few bosses beforehand. So instead, we're just gonna spawn in the first accessible Scythe, the Great Scythe, which you can find just before the Cursed Greatwood boss. The Great Scythe itself is a pretty simple weapon. Terrible strength scaling, average dex scaling, and a little bit of bleed status if something manages to survive long enough for it to trigger. Its weapon art, Neck Swipe, is a strange one though. You know how the Scythes in Dark Souls 2 have a sweet spot mechanic? Well, this is that. But now instead of having to worry about getting the perfect distance between you and an enemy, you can now just press a button and use mana for it instead. See? 59 damage normally, but use the weapon art, and now you're doing 95. That's a little less than 100% more damage. Technically speaking, the Scythes in Dark Souls 3 still have sweet spot mechanics even without the weapon art, but it's a difference of about 5 to 10% damage this go around, so you're forgiven if you've never noticed it before. Now, considering it's called Neck Swipe and hits at humanoid neck height, you'd think this only applies to average-sized humanoid enemies, but that's not the case. A basic attack on the giant crystal lizard does 34 damage, but use the weapon art and you do 58, and that was against the lizard's tail. So we'll be using this attack all the time now, right? Well, no, actually, because every single Scythe attack has its own damage values, and some, like this running jump attack, actually do more damage than the weapon art. So while the weapon art is another tool in our toolbox, it's not always the best tool for the job. Just worth noting for all of you number crunchers out there.
Speaking of retro games, let me introduce you to a new game that feels like all the old classics you remember. The sponsor of today's video, Portal Fantasy.
You do realize I didn't say number munchers, right? Your transition doesn't even make any sense.
You're going on the B team. Welcome to Portal Fantasy, a creature collecting adventure RPG. Journey through a pixelated world where you'll be solving puzzles, battling monsters, and having questionable interactions with random strangers. Create your very own character, and give them a special quirk like faster movement, better money find, or that one. Forget what I said about the other quirks, that's the only right answer. Pick a Porble that best represents you. Yeah, that feels about right. Then engage in exciting strategic combat. Hit him. Hit him harder. Hit him until he dies! Use scrolls to capture Porbles you find around the world, then use your newfound friends to go exploring. Who knows what you'll find out there? Maybe you'll find this horrific thing. Not enough for you? How about Dungeons and Traps? Or online play with friends? Or the power to customize your Porble's abilities and color? Give him a third eye. I'm not your dad. If that sounds fun to you, click the link in the description and pin comment below, and you can download Portal Fantasy's demo today, and wishlist the game to be notified as soon as it launches. So wait, how do I get Lemon out of this thing? Uh-oh.
But in any case, let's get this run moving, shall we? The beginning of the run is essentially the same as any other run you've ever done. The Great Scythe is a decent weapon, but nothing extraordinary. The damage is fine, but it's a bit of a stamina hog, and doesn't really allow for multiple hits in a row due to its long animation times. The bleed effect is nice though. Glad to see it works properly again. Got a little worrisome there in Dark Souls 2. And with Chuckles McKnuckles here taken care of with relative ease, we can push forward into Firelink Shrine, grab the speedrun ring, stick a sword in a pile of ash to see a hint of the bonfire creation mechanic that could have been, then pick out our first levels. I pump some points into strength so I can one-hand my scythe, then put the rest into dexterity for the extra damage. The one-handed moveset is a bit more vertical than the two-handed versions, aside from the strong attack, which remains horizontal. And I know that seems like a silly distinction to make, but trust me, it's important. That's foreshadowing, by the way. Right then, the high walls of Lothric. Let the good times begin. So you know how the Great Scythe is an absolute monster in Dark Souls 1? Yeah, it doesn't really translate over to Dark Souls 3. They did keep the backstab animation from Dark Souls 1 though, so at least there's that. Thankfully though, I thought ahead. Or rather, I couldn't decide on a starting gift and got very lucky with the one I chose, the Fire Gem, letting you make any weapon into a fire weapon right from the start of the game. Now, it does lower our physical damage a little bit, and does remove the scaling entirely, but in the early game, there are several enemy types that melt to fire damage, either because they panic and leave themselves open to your attacks, or because they're actually weak to fire and cook real good when you burn them. All I know is that these Pus of Man enemies are a real pain in my side, but my Fire Scythe does an amazing job of mincing them down to size. And these enemies drop two very good items for me this early in the game, Embers and Titanite Shards. The Fire Scythe works okay on normal enemies too. Nothing amazing, but we'll take what we can get. And lest we forget, the Scythe still has the bleed effect too, so when it comes to big beefy enemies, we've got a pretty strong setup for this early in the game. But after collecting all the normal goodies from around the map, I upgrade my Scythe to +2 for a little extra damage, then rush on down to Vort, Watchdog of the Boreal Valley. Aw, look, he's happy. So fun fact, despite being an ice boss, Vort is not weak to fire. Even more fun fact, he's immune to bleed. Can't wait for that to be a running theme. Ah well, it's the second boss. Nothing to get upset about. And with Vort dead, we can move on to the next area. Let me just call my Uber real quick. Queso!
Cheese, 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 cheese.
And with my lactose intolerance in full swing, we arrive at the Undead Settlement, where we meet our first free-range NPC in the game, Yol.
Please, grant me death. Undo my shackles.
All in due time, friend, but not yet. You have further purpose.
Oh, I am honored, truly. I, Yol of Londo, do solemnly swear myself to you.
Such a gentle soul. Hopefully his death is just as gentle. I go through the settlement, collecting the usual bits and bobs, fight off Hodrick, who learns very quickly that sides can't be blocked by shields, and with him out of the way, we can go collect our first scythe. If you can get past the giant archer and into the house, all you need to do is jump across the gap at the top of the stairs, and you can get the great scythe. Alright, now we can start the run. Wait. Oh look, another NPC. What are you doing in that cage there, bud?
Welcome to my abode. I am Cornix, an old pyromancer, a crow in his cage, as you see now.
A cage is no place to die, my friend. Come with me. I have a better resting place for you in mind. Speaking of resting places, what have we found here? A graveyard for the still living, it seems. Well, no matter. Even if the trees themselves come to life in protest, I still have a job to do. I send the confused souls to the destination they pray for, then use the more vertical swings of the scythe to cut down the Great Wood's limbs one at a time. And after popping the cysts along the tree's abdomen, we enter phase 2, dropping into a large grave. You know, I should thank you. I was wondering how I was going to dig a hole large enough to fit your corpse. Looks like I no longer have to. And with one final swing, the curse-rotted Greatwood is hacked into nothing more than curse-rotted firewood, and we've unlocked the transposing kiln. We've also reached the peaceful end of an NPC, Hodrick. Mad though he was, he found peace in the end. I give the transposing kiln to Ludlith back at Firelink Shrine, and make the Pontiff's Left Eye Ring, which gives me HP back with successive swings a la Bloodborne. But before we press on, I've got a few more NPCs to gather up. First is Irina of Karim.
Who is there? Is someone there? Anyone? Oh, please, whoever you are, touch me. The dark surrounds me, nibbles at my flesh. Little creatures. They never stop biting. So please, hold out your hand and touch me.
There, sweet bird. The dark shall not take you just yet.
Ah, yes, there you are. So close, indeed. Then I am not entirely alone just yet. Praise the merciful gods above.
It's always the pious ones that are the hardest ones to watch. She'll understand by the end. I also met up with her protector, Aegon, who scoffed at the fact that he was talking with death itself.
All you faceless undead, behaving as if you deserve respect.
Oh, don't worry, friend. You'll remember my face at the end. Speaking of remembered faces, time for an old friend, Sigurd of Katarina, at our service. Riveting stuff. I also take a minute to go visit the giant who's been firing arrows at me, and we form a temporary alliance.
I help anytime.
Good lad. He doesn't seem ready to go yet, so I spend some time with Sigurd taking down a demon, which goes off without a hitch. Guess it's not your time yet either, eh, old chum?
We unkindled must put our duties first. But, for the moment, we've a toast to make. Long may the sun shine!
Sleep well, sweet prince. You and I have a long way to go yet. I grab the Chloranthy ring to round out my build, upgrade my Scythe to +3 for a bit more damage, then make my way to the Road of Sacrifice, where we can find the next potential Scythe of the run, the Great Corvian Scythe. It's ever so slightly stronger than the one I have now, due to better scaling, and the bleed status is better too. Just one problem though. The only way to get one is to grind out a Scythe from these Corvians here. What's the drop rate on that bad boy? Okay, well, it's not that much better than the Great Scythe. Back at Firelink, another lost soul has appeared at the bonfire, Cirrus of the Sunless Realms. Cirrus here is looking for her grandfather. Well then, allow me to take you to him.
You've been clean hollowed, have you? Then I will show no mercy. This is not my time to die.
You say that like you get to choose. The thing is, Cirrus, death is inevitable. It may come today, or it may come tomorrow, but one way or another, it always arrives. So if you've got feelings you're sitting on, best to air them while you've still got time.
Forgive me, Granddad.
Ah, well, he may not be here to forgive you, but I forgive you in his stead. Go in peace. Oh, bye, Fletchy, I just realized I haven't let Grey Rat out of his cell yet. I'm sorry, my friend. Completely slipped my mind. Won't happen again.
Very well. I humbly place my faith in you. I am Grey Rat of the Undead Settlement, and I promise to assist you. Do your part, and I'll do mine.
A fair trade. I accept your offer. Back on the Road of Sacrifices, we've got 2 more NPCs to meet. Okay, 1 more NPC to meet. Henri of Astora.
Oh, hello. How do you do? I'm Henri of Astora. The next time we cross paths, one may find the other in a time of need. May the flames guide your way.
I sensed loss in your future, but not yet. Enjoy your friendship while you can. A true friend is a rare thing indeed. Back at Firelink, I throw myself off a cliff several times, then talk to Yol, who gives me my 5 free levels. Because scaling isn't a benefit at the moment, I decide to put them into endurance and vigor, since you can never go wrong with more health and stamina. And after getting them nice and high, Yol has officially served his purpose.
Ah, you have attained ample strength. All will soon be clear, my good lord.
Huh, you know, it's interesting. The last 2 games, it seemed like I had to drag all the NPCs kicking and screaming into the abyss. But in Dark Souls 3, it seems like most of them are just ready. Oh, hello there.
Oh, prithee, art thou good Yol's master? I am Yuria of Londor, a close friend of his. Thanks to thee, Yol's soul is redeemed. Allow me to express my gratitude in his stead.
The pleasure was mine. He was a fine pilgrim, and ready for the crossing. Yuria here will have her own role to play as time goes on, but the only thing I need from her now is a Londor Braille Divine Tome.
Till we meet again.
Sooner than you think, love. Sooner than you think. I comfort Grey Rat, who recently discovered that his friend passed during his incarceration, then help him to find purpose again. It's important to have a goal as we make our way through life, after all.
Thank you. You will not be disappointed.
On to the next lost soul. I collect the Grass Crest Shield to help me keep my legs pumping, then visit Orbeck, the next NPC on my list of unfortunate souls.
What do you want, if you haven't any business? I've reading to get back to.
Oh, Orbeck, pompous to the end. Tell you what, you come with me, and I'll make sure you can study something that no one else has access to. How to avoid death itself.
How intriguing. Very well. You're no fool. I take it you understand the weight of a promise.
Anywho, monkey paw wishes aside, it's time for the next boss, the Crystal Sage. The Sage bleeds and has terrible poise, so there's nothing really to see here. First try, best try. Moving right along. Meanwhile, back at Firelink Shrine, it turns out Orbeck is already causing problems.
Oh, good hollow. I'm afraid I must say, Orbeck of Vinheim is a cause of much consternation.
Don't worry, I'll talk to him. Good news, Orbeck. That lesson I promised happens today. The only way to avoid death is to never speak to her in the first place.
It seems too late. And there's only one thing to do. With regret, I will end this here and now.
Unfortunately for Orbeck, he was so focused on trying to heal himself and avoid death that he barely fought back, only casting 1 or 2 Faron sword swings before the end. I finish him with a proper neck swipe.
But why? Is that all I'm worth?
No, you could have been worth more, but you chose ego over application and helped no one but yourself. We all have our talents, big and small, but unless we choose to use those talents to help everyone around us, have you truly used them at all? And with the recent boost of souls I received from the Crystal Sage, I pump some points into dexterity and decide that it's time we move away from the Fire Scythe and towards a Sharp Infusion instead. Technically, the numbers aren't better than what we already had, but the more we pump into our stats, the stronger they'll become. Back on the road to sacrifices, I collect some armor that gets me a bit closer to my proper attire, lures several fools to their demise in the dumbest way possible. What? They can't all be epic. Then snuff out the lights around the swamp before heading to the top of the bridge to rid the world of another demon who refuses to die. Stop! I need those bones for aesthetic purposes! And boom, there we go. Another demon dead, only a handful more of them to go. I hunt down some Titanite demons for large Titanite so I can upgrade my scythe again later, then head straight to the next boss, the Abyss Watchers. Looks like I'm a bit late to the party. Ah well, better to be fashionably late than unfashionably early. The fight itself is ridiculously easy. The boss has very little poise, and the timing of each swing is just fast enough so that as long as you've got the stamina, he can't break out of the cycle. You can also backstab him with your scythe if you're feeling particularly spicy, and for those of us who are feeling fancy, a Sharp Infused Great Scythe can be buffed with the Magic Weapon spell if you thought ahead and bought that from Orbeck before helping him across the Great Divide. And with an easy first phase down, we just need to focus on not dying in the second. And considering the second phase isn't much different outside of being a bit more theatrical, all it takes is some proper stamina management and positioning, and the Abyss Watchers can finally rest without worrying about being corrupted by the dark. Much more important, I now have a very cool cape, creeping ever closer to the fashion souls I crave. Hey, wait a minute. Aegon, are you trying to steal away Irina? That's not how this works, my friend.
This Knight of Karim does not forgive betrayal. Even a broken woman deserves her dignity.
Make no mistake, Aegon. I completely agree. The problem is that you and I disagree on what that dignity means. You want her to bend to your will, to force herself into a mold that doesn't fit. I want her to decide for herself what the end looks like. But what would I know? I'm just another faceless undead.
Irina. This wench.
No great loss. Are you all right, little one?
Oh, sweet champion. Where have you been? Please, your touch. The little creatures, how they nip and bite.
Go on back to the shrine, Irina. Make whatever peace you can, and I'll be back to collect you soon. I continue forward into the Cathedral of the Deep, where a mimic I normally ignore hides the next piece of Irina's puzzle, the Deep Braille Divine Tome. After that, we light the bonfire in Rosaria's chambers for future endeavors, then ask to join her covenant, which focuses on rebirth. I offer a single pale tongue as proof of allegiance, which Rosaria wordlessly accepts, and thus have completed the necessary requirements to push Ringfinger Leonhard's questline forward. More on that later. Oh, and because I see this come up all the time in conversation, you all realize that Rosaria is just like a completely normal humanoid, right? Like, that worm thing isn't her body. It's another person that is currently going through rebirth. So, for those of you who were struggling with any feelings you were having upon seeing her, you can relax. You don't need to explain yourself today. Now, we do need to talk about the rest of the pictures you've got in that desktop folder of yours, though. I upgrade my scythe to +4, spend 20,000 souls to open up this door here, then watch as those 20,000 souls go completely to waste when Patches decides to lock the door again.
Have no fear. There's beauty in death.
Patches, are you hitting on me? Because it's working. I make my way back down the tower, albeit a little less gracefully than I'd like, help give the Master Swordsman an honorable death and lead him to his final rest, then go back to the Cathedral of the Deep to find Sigurd again.
Hello!
Sigurd is in need of his armor, which Patches is selling at ridiculous prices, but rather than grind for those souls, let's just push forward to the Deacons of the Deep. Forcing my way through the first phase takes no time at all, since we have a weapon that hits in wide swings and does a decent amount of damage, and when his popeliness finally emerges out of the stonework, it's more of the same. There we go. Take your rituals and get. Oh hey, I never noticed the Pope had a beard. Back in Firelink, Henri and Horace have returned, so we might as well chat and see how they're doing. Alright then, but with the Deacon's souls in hand, we can buy Sigurd's armor and throw it down to him.
Oh, my armor.
But while he gets dressed and somehow wriggles his way out of that well, we've got the catacombs of Carthus to zip through. I find Henri, who seems to have lost Horace among the traps and tribulations of the catacombs, then decided it might be fun to fight the Bone Zone normally for once. It was not. Bridge trap is love, bridge trap is life. I sit back and relax while Tony and the gang cut down another demon for me, then head down into the smoldering lake to collect the last of the large titanite I need to upgrade my scythe further. I also discovered Horace down here as well. He's seen better days. Poor guy can't even growl at me anymore. He's gone completely hollow amongst the water and worms. Don't worry, my nonverbal acquaintance. I'll make sure that Henri dies a peaceful death. Wow, cool 360. I bring my scythe up to +6, pump my dexterity up just a little bit higher, then make a quick pit stop to snuff out a dying ember. Nothing much to see here. The Demon King himself has very little to offer in the way of a challenge, though there was a weird glitch at the end. At the last 10% of his health, he's supposed to lose steam and be unable to really fight back, but for some reason, the Demon King was able to pull off one last ring of fire attack. I guess even demons are capable of fearing death. You wouldn't think it, but there you go. But with the old Demon King dead, it's time to get back on track and fight Skeleton Lord Wolnir. Another lord who thinks he can defeat death, huh? Well, you may be a lich of gigantic proportions, but there's one thing you forgot when trying to cheat me of my prize. Hiding your phylactery in plain sight is a bad idea, especially when they glow. Maybe keep that in mind next time. I cross the bridge to Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, petting the local wildlife as I go, then report my findings to Grey Rat.
What do you think? Shall I go and see what I can find?
My friend, if it brings you closer to being ready to pass on, then you do what you gotta do. As I make my way through Irithyll, it's worth noting that there is another scythe we can collect here, the Pontiff Knight Great Scythe. The only problem is that there's only a single enemy that drops it, and it's another one of those 2% drop rates. Considering that it's only slightly stronger than the scythe we have now when it's maxed out, I think we can skip that one too. Oh, Henri made it out of the catacombs. I wonder how he's holding up.
Ah, you are brave indeed, to face your duty alone. I would do well to learn from you. May the flames guide your way.
Sounds like someone's almost got it. You're not quite there yet, but a little longer and you'll get there. Excuse me for a moment. Hey, you can stop hiding now. I can see you.
Oh, my. You are...
Yeah, it's me. Do me a favor. Be gentle when guiding Henri to their final destination, yeah? They need a little bit more time.
Ah, gracious Lord.
I find Siegmeyer in the midst of his travels, sleeping soundly with very little regret, and leave him to enjoy the little time he has left. I give the scythe-wielding enemy outside of the boss arena a try to see if we get that 2% drop rate, which, to no one's surprise, we do not. Then head in to fight the next boss, Pontiff Sullivan. You know, normally I struggle with this boss, but after deciding to take a risk and attempt to parry, I now see why so many people argue that he's not that hard. That damage is outrageous, and so long as you remain aggressive, even his shadow phase isn't too bad. I think this is just one of those bosses that I get all up in my head about when fighting. He's not so bad when you put your mind to it. Hey Grey Rat, how'd your excursion go in Irithyll?
I might have died if it wasn't for that peculiar onion knight.
So, well then? But before we push forward any further, I think it's time for a side quest. As some of you may know, there's only 4 scythes in the entire game, and we've already passed by 3 of them. And while I stand by the fact that I don't want to do the awful grinds to get the 2 we've skipped thus far, there's another problem. Every scythe in this game is essentially the same. Sure, the damage is slightly different, and one of them has a different weapon art, but the reality is that when push comes to shove, there's very little difference between them. But there's one that is completely different from the others, and it's here in the Painting of Ariandel DLC, Sister Frida's Great Scythe. Oh, here, a sweetly rotting bed for you to lie upon, whoever you were. Frida's Scythe is probably one of the more iconic scythes in Dark Souls, and it can be ours if we can kill her. Actually, this rot bed is kinda comfy. So now we just need to figure out how to get it. Should be simple enough, right? Maybe this strapping young man can help me out.
If you've lost your way, the words of Lady Frida will guide you. Show respect, and let Lady Frida speak to you.
Ah, of course. I'll just ask her for it. Good suggestion.
Return from whence thou camest.
Well, negotiations have failed. Time to use the universal language of violence. Well, that was easy. Okay, so maybe this isn't gonna be as quick and painless as I thought, but it's not like there's any bosses between me and her. If we stay focused and we don't get distracted by side quests on our side quests, we should... Oh, hey, who are you?
O wondrous Ash, grant us our wish. Make the tales true, and burn this world away. Surely you have seen the rot that afflicts our world, but that which fooled the good father, and buried the flame, after we had all made up our minds too. So, please, grant us one wish.
Are you sure this is what you want? Once I help you, there's no going back.
Oh, please, it must be you. I am so terribly frightened of timidly rotting away like those fools on the outside.
Very well. If flame is what you require, then flame is what you shall have. But in order to bring flame to this world, we'll need to rid it of its inhabitants.
I've seen your kind.
Oh my god, shut up already with that sexy gravelly voice of yours. I love you, now let me kill you. Yeah, that's the opposite of what I said, stop doing that. So, I have a sneaking suspicion that he can do that an infinite number of times, which is a real bummer, because he doesn't seem to be able to be knocked out of it with the Scythe. Guess it's time to take risks. Parries, riposts, and when he inevitably goes for the heal, a quick backstab punish to interrupt the animation. Funnily enough, he can actually cancel his own animations. The more you know. Well, at least now we have time to read all these copies of 50 Shades of Grey Rat. You know, that's probably for the best. Can you imagine? You know what? Screw it. Whoever writes me a relatively family-friendly paragraph of whatever they think 50 Shades of Grey would look like in the comments gets a little heart emoji. At least for the first few hours after upload. After that, I'll probably need to take a mental health break from reading all the fanfiction, and any future chapters you write are just for your own enjoyment. But after unleashing that evil onto the world, we finally have access to Sister Frida's boss fight. Let's see if we can't collect our prize. Last chance, Frida. Will you go quietly?
Be forewarned, eager Ash. Should this world wither and rot, even then would Ariandel remain our home.
Well, can't say I didn't try. Guess I'll just have to kill you the old-fashioned way. Repeatedly. Time for a battle of the sides. Place your bets now. Who would win? A boss with 3 phases, a tag team partner who interrupts the fight, and magic twin scythes, or Death itself, come to collect her due? Trick question, because Death forgot to upgrade her scythe past +6, and only has 20 points in vigor. Oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be very bad. Well, cue the boss montage music.
Return from whence thou camest. Return from whence thou camest. Return from whence thou camest. You shall be Return from whence thou
Okay, so we might not be ready for this just yet, but I am nothing if not persistent. And despite taking several more curved blades to the face, it only took a few more tries before I was finally able to clear phase 1. Well, that was oodles of fun. Thank God she doesn't have 2 more phases to go or anything. All right, there's 2 more phases to go. Well, let's get to it. I've got a world to put to rest. I can't spend eternity here. Thankfully, phase 2 is the easiest of the 3. So long as you keep an eye on Frida while dodging through Father Ariandel's attacks, you'll be all right. His attacks are nice and slow, and if he's currently in the middle of an AoE, you can always switch focus to Frida, who is much less aggressive in this phase and easy to wail on. And after pushing the 2 of them to their limit, Father Ariandel decides to take his Lord Vessel and go home, leaving us with a very aggressive, very ticked off Frida. And if you die, you have to start all the way back at the beginning. Joy of joys. At least we get a sneak peek of our new weapon of choice and its moveset. God, I hope this is worth it. We've spent well over an hour getting our teeth kicked in. But hey, with this many deaths, I think we're reaching that point where a boss stops being hard for any other challenge runs I do in the future. So we got that going for us. And you know what? It did. I started this run here back in July of 2024. And when I did another run in between the beginning and end of this one, the Candlestick run, I was actually able to clear Frida with ease. So at least we know my suffering wasn't all for nothing. But whoo boy did I have to suffer to reach that point. There is a reason this run took so long to come out, and it wasn't just the mountains of research I had to do to make sure that no NPC questlines got away from me either. Despite being a normal weapon type, the Scythe run kinda broke me. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, because despite what you're seeing on screen, it wasn't Sister Frida who did the breaking. Don't get me wrong, she got the cracks in the foundation started, but there's a bigger brick wall coming our way. Eventually, after hours of gnashing my teeth and wailing, I decided to stop being so stubborn and went out to find enough Titanite chunks to upgrade my scythe. And with the slab we got from defeating Father Ariandel the first time, we can actually upgrade it all the way to plus 10, which gives me about 60 more damage per swing on average. Which doesn't sound like much, but every smidgen of damage we can grab is less time we have to spend in a boss fight, which means less time for me to make stupid mistakes. Unfortunately, that boost in damage wasn't enough to stop the storm, and I continued to die for another several hours on repeat. Over, and over, and over. But then, after days of trying to kill Frida, it happened. The pieces finally clicked, the timing suddenly made sense, and after spending more days than I care to remember on this godforsaken boss, it's finally over. Sister Frida and Father Ariandel, silenced at last. And for our suffering, we receive our prize. Well, sort of. First we have to visit Ludlith, who can now take Frida's soul and transform it into Frida's great scythe. Let's see what we're working with here. We've got strong physical damage, a small amount of magic damage on the side, and it causes the frost status effect, which is actually pretty decent in this game. As for the scaling, it has B scaling in Dex and C scaling in Intelligence, which doesn't sound like much, but every extra bit of scaling we can get is always welcome. As for the weapon art, it conjures a second scythe in your left hand, and lets you do some dual-wielding moves. They certainly look amazing, and if any enemies have low poise, we'll be able to take full advantage of that, though I do worry about the animation commitment. As for the weapon art's strong attack, you can summon Raids of Frost along the ground to do some extra frost damage. Might be useful, time will tell. I upgrade my new scythe to plus 3, which is as far as I can get it at the moment due to the upgrade material being Titanite scales, but even that meager upgrade amount still boosts our damage into the stratosphere, so I'm not complaining. And with our dexterity at the soft cap and my vigor and endurance in a comfortable place, we might as well start pumping our points into intelligence to take advantage of the magic damage that the scythe is offering. It's worth noting that the magic damage only applies to the weapon art, so we'll need to keep that in mind. But still, damage is damage. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some important business to attend to.
Those who aren't kin to fire cannot paint a world. Those absorbed by fire must not paint the world. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten, Mother.
I'm sorry, child, but I can't let you prolong the people of your painting suffering. I would have just hunted them down again anyway. No reason to prolong the inevitable. I give the frost attacks a test run, with somewhat promising results, then find our fragile friend to let him know that his time has finally come.
Oh, my, thank you. I can hear the crackling from here, the sound of my home, the painting of Ariandel burning away.
Goodbye, my strange friend.
As a burner of worlds should.
But we're not done quite yet. We've got one more boss to clear before this painting is set completely alight. The champion's Gravetender and his loyal wolves. The wolves themselves are no issue and go down like wet paper, and the champion, whose greatest offense is their defense, is unable to defend themselves properly against my onslaught of attacks, due to the fact that both of my scythes go around his shield and do chip damage. As for the frost attacks, well, I think his health bar speaks for itself. Because this is Dark Souls, nothing can be simple, so we still have to fight off a second phase boss, the Gravetender Grey Wolf. But so long as we keep our focus on defeating one boss at a time, we should be okay. And while the Great Wolf is very quick and has a variety of fast attacks that can quickly ruin your day, they're not overly difficult to dodge if you dodge towards her instead of away. And with one final push, that's the Gravetenders defeated and the painting of Ariandel complete. Which means we can get back to the main game and continue removing NPCs from the... Hello, Anorlando. I'd say I missed you, but, you know, I didn't. Further in, though, we find Henri. It would seem he's finally ready to end this journey, and I shall be his guide. For there shall be no darkness nor dazzling, but one equal light. No noise nor silence, but one equal music. No ends nor beginnings, but one equal eternity. For though there was no such peace here on this earth, my words will help you find it in your passing. May the flames guide your way. And with another soul brought to the end of their journey, it's time to move on to the next. Oh, hey, 2-for-1 deal. Nice. Up the elevator tower and across the invisible bridge that only those with true sight can see, and we find our next trapped soul.
I am Yorshka, captain of the Dark Moon Knights. What beckoned thee to such a place?
You, sweet child. I'm here to free you from your shackles.
'Twas a rare delight to converse with another. My thanks, strange visitor.
May you find peace.
Dear brother, forgive me.
Oh, don't worry, sweetling. He'll be joining you very soon. On into Anor Londo proper to give last rites to those that remain. I say a few words over the body of our giant blacksmith friend, then approach Aldrich and Gwendolyn, the strangest symbiotic relationship I've ever seen. No, really, can someone explain this to me? I get that Aldrich is eating Gwendolyn, but why is Gwendolyn fighting me? Is Gwendolyn aware that he's being eaten alive? Or is this a full-on cordyceps situation where Aldrich has complete control and is just forcing Gwendolyn's body to act against its own survival instincts? I don't know, man. This game has always given me more questions than answers. First try Aldrich, by the way. And with Aldrich dead, we technically have access to another scythe, the Life Hunt, which has been turned into a miracle that can be made from his boss soul. But it requires faith to be even remotely effective, and dumping into another stat this late into the game just doesn't seem like the right choice. But what does seem like the right choice is ending a few more NPC questlines. Yuria, it's time.
Brave usurper, I beseech thee, claim the fire.
Not yet, Child of Dark, but soon. Now then, who's next? Cornix, you ready to go?
Fine, fine. I see how it is. When a pupil strays from the path, the master must intrude. Prepare yourself, hatchling. Behold the pyromancy of an old crow.
I admit, watching you fight makes me want to try pyromancies, but until then, it's time to go.
I can't complain. This old reverie had to end.
And with Cornix gone, we've got one more NPC whose time has reached its end.
You again. Touch me one last time and kill me as you promised you would.
Very well. I'll make it quick.
Oh, a knight of Karim is always true to his word.
But with Firelink Shrine's population cut in half, it's time to move forward yet again. I make my way through the Irithyll dungeons, collecting a few necessary tidbits as I go, sprint my way to the Profound Capital, slay a random mage who's just hanging out in the furthest depths of the prison cells, and find our old companion behind the bars. What say you, Sigurd? Are you ready? Or should I give you a little longer?
No, please. Go on ahead.
Very good. In that case, allow me to give you a warrior's death. You've earned it.
No sense in holding back now. Witness the fury of a Knight of Katarina! Ha!
You did well, Sigurd. Now rest your eyes one last time. But now for the true brick wall of the run. The reason I didn't complete this run for nearly 8 months. Yorm the Giant. Normally a complete pushover, it turns out that if you remove his gimmick and try to fight him normally, he's one of the worst bosses in the entire Dark Souls series. Is he difficult? No, not particularly, but fighting him without the Storm Ruler drags this fight on 30 times longer than normal. And despite how many people like to put me on a pedestal of their own creation, I want it known. I'm not good at video games. Don't get me wrong, I've been playing video games for over 25 years now, so recognizing patterns and mechanical loopholes is my bread and butter. But actually executing on those discoveries? Nah man, couldn't be me. That's why I'm the patience elemental. Once I discover the hole in the brick wall, I'll gladly headbutt it until I can scramble through. But sometimes that takes hours, or in this case months, of trying a challenge, putting it down for a week or two, then trying again to see if any new ideas come along. It's a slow process, but a steady one. And though it may take longer than anyone would like, it always seems impossible until it is done. And, like all challenges that run into these type of walls, the solution to this fight was extraordinarily simple. Ask chat for help. With Dark Souls 3 being my least played game of the trilogy, I don't know all the ins and outs of the game, but the Firebomb Academy has many scholars, and when we pool our knowledge together, no wall can stand in our way. And wouldn't you know it, today's run was saved by none other than Press Continue, the irony of which is not lost on me. With knowledge collected from previous challenge runs, Press informed me that Yorm's right arm is actually a weak point, and if you hit it enough times, he'll actually stagger as if you had gotten a headshot with the Storm Ruler, thus opening him up for a critical hit and allowing you to do nearly 3,000 damage in one fell swoop. It doesn't happen often, and you have to keep up the pressure with vertical attacks, but being able to do 30 attacks worth of damage in a few seconds cuts the room for error down significantly. And with this new knowledge in hand, we've finally crossed the threshold. That's another Lord of Cinder dead and gone. Only one more to go. Hello again, Emma. I assume it was you who called me here today?
Prince Lothric is in your hands. Please save his soul. Tell him what he must me alone.
I'm sorry, but his choices are his own. My job is simply to escort him to the other side. Don't worry though, you'll be with him again soon. But with Emma gone, we have another Knight of the Boreal Valley to deal with, the Dancer. This shouldn't take long. There's only room for one Lord of the Dance in this game, and I'll have you know it's me. Ooh, hey, you can't just, okay, that's it. You think you're the only one who can spin to win? You, my dear, are sadly mistaken. But with the Dancer dead, I take a quick step back to the Cathedral of the Deep, where someone's gone and killed Rosaria. What is this? Her soul was mine to collect, and now some vagabond with a metal mask thinks he can do my job? He didn't even finish the job he started. Disgraceful. I'll kill him! I'll kill him until he dies! Oops. Sorry, Hazel. Right. Time to find Leonard and show him what a professional looks like.
Well, never expected to see you here. Felt sorry for the poor thing in all her festering glory. And now you want to ravage her soul as well. I sowed the seeds, I'll prune the mess. I, Leonard, swear so upon my vows to the goddess.
Pretty words for a thief.
No one will despoil her soul. Certainly no beast wrapped in human skin.
Ah, and there it is. The delusions finally come to light.
What do you want with her soul? Isn't flesh enough for a sick beast?
Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. Perhaps an eternity in the dark will give you time to think of an answer to that question. But with the Pretender defeated, it's time to move forward. I fight my way through Lothric Castle, where I finally find an outfit that suits my needs, and proceed to test it out against all the enemies in my immediate reach. And after killing a Mimic for a hefty pile of Titanite scales, then finding another chest with even more inside, I think we can finally upgrade our Scythe to maximum level. All I need is some souls for the upgrade, and I think I know just where to get them. The Dragon Slayer armor. Or Ornstein 3.0, if you prefer. Normally somewhat difficult when you have to fight him with melee, the Scythe is actually a great weapon against him. Any defense capabilities he normally gets from hiding behind his shield is more or less nullified, and it's only a matter of patience and aggression until the job is done. And with souls in hand, we can push our weapon of choice to max level, giving us a whopping 391 physical damage. Not bad at all. Feels like the perfect time to explore the Consumed King's Garden. Our build is more or less complete at this point, so from here on out it's down to boss fights and NPC questlines. And our next target is Osiros.
Ah, you ignorant slaves. Finally taken notice, have you? Of the power of my beloved Ocelot, child of dragons.
Chat, should we tell him? I think we should tell him. It's theorized that Osiros is actually manifesting his memories of Ocelot via magic, his madness projecting into reality and making baby noises emanate from the ether. And that's the explanation we're sticking to, because otherwise this particular scene would definitely result in some serious questions. Thank goodness there's not some sort of cut content that shows that Ocelot is real and has a bunch of horrific audio to go with that smashing animation we saw earlier, right? Why are y'all looking at me like that? So long, Osiros. I'm not sure if there's anything left of your soul, but if there is, may the flames guide it across the abyss. While I beat down another soulless husk of a boss, did you know that Vort had some cut content as well? He actually had a slightly different design, and had multiple burnt corpses strapped across his chest. I'm not going to go into detail about why those were removed, but let's just say it was for similar reasons to Osiros, if you catch my drift. Not sure what the whole baby-related subplot was going to be, but I think it's one of the lore mysteries I'm okay with just not knowing. I arrive at Dark Firelink Shrine, break through the poorly animated illusory wall, and collect a very important item, Eyes of the Firekeeper. More on that later. And with those grabbed, we've got one more NPC in this area to meet with.
'Tis dark for now, and not a soul stirs. But remember, fires are known to fade in quiet.
Almost right, but there's one soul that still stirs, and that soul needs tending to. Back in modern-day Firelink Shrine, we've got very few NPCs left to guide, one of which is Greyrat, who's decided on how he wants to go.
You know, I was thinking about leaving for another round of thieving. I'm aware of the danger. That castle is a death trap. But I don't want to sit around and die a petty rat. And I consider myself your friend.
From one friend to another, I respect your wishes. Do as you see fit.
Goodbye. I will leave for some time. So long for now.
He's a good egg. I hope he goes quietly. Well, while Greyrat finds his end, it's time for another side quest. Archdragon Peak. Not much to see here if I'm being honest, just a few bosses that need culling. The Ancient Dragon is the Ancient Dragon, so we won't waste any time on that, but the one NPC that remains in this area, Havel, is another story entirely. With as many times as I've fought him back in Dark Souls 1, I can parry him as easy as breathing, but then something weird happens. Not only does he use his shield's weapon art, which he never did back in Dark Souls 1, but it turns out he can two-hand attack so fast that he can actually stun-lock you to death. Don't remember that being a thing. What's more, apparently you can't parry two-handed Great Hammer attacks in Dark Souls 3, unless they're rolling or sprinting attacks, because consistency is for the weak. And with this arcane knowledge now in hand, Havel is actually one of the stronger NPCs we're gonna fight this entire run. We can't parry 90% of his attacks, pretty much every attack he makes gives him hyper armor, so we can't interrupt his combos, and because this is Dark Souls 3, he never runs out of stamina. But don't give up hope just yet, because there is a single attack we can take advantage of, his jump attack. He can't quickly switch into another attack, so as long as we avoid the jump and are able to close the gap quickly, we can get a few attacks in before retreating back to safety. Once again, Brawn is whittled down to nothing with patience and time, and I am very patient. Back in Firelink, Andre apparently has a message for me.
Oh, you've returned. I was hoping to see you. That crestfallen ass Hawkwood, he handed me this.
Huh. Alright then. I haven't really talked to Hawkwood much this run, but it appears he's seen my work at Firelink Shrine and has need of my services. Another warrior in need of a battle to be put at peace. Are you ready, Hawkwood?
Well, I've decided to stop running from my fate. Loathe me all you like. I shall take what makes you dragon.
Unfortunately for him, we've just learned how to counter great weapon builds. Combine that with the fact that he's now frostbitten, and Hawkwood's last stand is over after a few minutes.
You are a dragon. More dragon than I.
Acceptance. It suits you well. And with me being declared the most dragon, I think it's time we clear Archdragon Peak of its final inhabitant, the Nameless King. It did take a few tries to remember the flow of the fight, and how to avoid all of the King of the Storm's attacks in Phase 1, but after shaking off the rust, the King of the Storm is removed from the fight without too much issue from here on out. As for the Nameless King himself, well, that's another issue entirely. Turns out, 8 months is a long time, and remembering exact timings and distances for one particular boss gets shoved out of your brain in lieu of more important information. But after a series of unfortunate deaths, the muscle memory started to come back to my fingertips, albeit a bit slower than I would have liked. Let me rack my brain for a bit, see if I can't find something that I can remove and replace with the Nameless King's attack patterns. Until then though, I think it's time we explored the Grand Archives. I eliminate the Crystal Sage that haunts the joint without having to chase him around the map, which is a nice change of pace, but then a note of sadness to balance out the joy. Greyrat the Thief. Petty no longer, but at what cost? Farewell, my friend. Truly, you are one of the best of us. But with that, it's time to finish the base game. The Twin Princes, Lorien and Lothric. Lorien himself is an easy fight. Outside of a few attacks, it's as simple as dodging, attacking once, then dodging the rebuttal. Rinse and repeat until death. But then, a complication. It would appear Lothric does not intend to go quietly into the Dark Night.
Rise if you would.
Another overzealous pretender, trying to ward off death for just one more moment. The poor fools don't even know the cost of what they've done. Be that as it may, there's nothing to be done but clean up their mess. Just like before, dodge an attack in a slow methodical dance, and outside of a few magic attacks from Lothric, the brothers will get weaker and weaker as the fight goes on. Their repeated mockery and defiance of death has made them empty husks of who they once were. Killing them is a mercy more than anything else. Speaking of mercies, there's another prisoner in the Irithyll dungeon that needs our help. Hello, Carla.
Oh, there you are. So, what business have you here?
I'm here to help you escape, in more ways than one.
You're here to save me? Very well. Besides, I've grown tired of imprisonment. I am Carla, and I accept your proposal.
Right. Best not to keep her waiting. Be free from your shackles.
You're a fickle one, and vicious.
Yeah, I probably could have been a bit more gentle about that one. Better balance out my karma and help someone cross over smoothly. Little late on the trigger with this one. Truly, he help any time. But outside of a few loose strings in the base game, all that's left is the Ringed City DLC, where a few more NPCs are waiting for the end.
What is it you want from this old stone-amped hag? I've nothing for you, not a smithereen. I just like to stand here and take in the view.
Hello, Grandmother. I have business with you.
Well, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Any final observations you'd like to make?
At the close of the Age of Fire, all lands meet at the end of the earth. Great kingdoms and anemic townships will be one and the same. The great tide of human enterprise, all for naught. That's why I'm so taken by this grand sight. This must be what it's like to be a god.
I wouldn't know, I'm afraid. Not my department.
Keep your marbles intact, love. At least until I lose mine.
Deal. Farewell, Grandmother. May you find what you seek.
My time has come, has it? Well, maybe I'll get to see an angel.
I carry on into the DLC, falling forever downward deeper into the depths of the Dreg Heap, a land of non-Euclidean architecture and counterfeit angels, and a certain someone who seems determined to follow me no matter how far into the future I go. Hello again.
Oh, look at you. You've got your head screwed on correct. Call me Lap. I can't remember my real name, so let's just go with that. Come on. What else can I say? I'm a bloody hollow, for heaven's sake.
Keep it together, Lemon. Even Patches deserves a good guide, even if he is an absolute fuck. I make my way through the minefield of angels and poison bogs, and push forward to my favorite boss in the game. Hello, boys. Did you miss me? Yeah, feelings mutual. Now, the last time I fought these beasties, I went on a bit of a rant about how much I disliked their design. And to my surprise, a loud portion of the comment section had the opposite opinion, arguing that the Demon Princes were one of the best double battles FromSoft has ever created. And to be fair, I was probably not nearly as clear as I could have been when making my point. I was a bit frustrated when writing the script, and YouTube videos don't exactly make for very good conversation mediums either. So, before we continue, I'd like to clarify a few things. First off, thank you all for the litany of mnemonic devices that were offered to help me remember which demon to kill first. They were all great, but it turns out that I didn't even need one. If you delete the top health bar first and work your way down, you'll get the laser demon. Easy peasy. Moving on to my point about not liking the design of the demons, what I was trying to say was that the demons are too physically alike for my liking. Think of other double battles that FromSoft has made. Ornstein and Smo, Throne Watcher and Defender, the Godskin Duo. All of them can be easily told apart at a moment's glance because their physical outlines are different. And while I'm sure someone who's played Dark Souls 3 for 1,000 hours can tell the difference between the demons based solely on the way they smell, those of us who only play the game every so often are left struggling. It's a quality of life design choice, and my frustration comes from the fact that FromSoft clearly understands it since they've done it in literally every other game they've made. And yes, several comments argue that the demons are different colors, and that's true. But as someone who struggles to tell the difference in colors sometimes, orange and darker orange wasn't really an optimal choice. One demon could have been orange flames and another could have been blue, and it would have cost FromSoft maybe a single evening of coding time. In fact, if someone makes that a mod, I'll literally pay you. Because if you can't tell the difference in the colors, there's only a single physical difference between the two. At least, the only real one I could find after scrubbing through the footage. Their whiskers. Yep, that's it. The demon in Pain's whiskers droop down, and the demon from Below's stick out horizontally. That's really it. Maybe the demon in Pain's left ear is slightly shorter than his right? I guess? But not in a significantly obvious way. It's just like 25% smaller because it's ripped or whatever. There were all sorts of other suggestions in the comments, like how one has different webbing or different wings, but I'm gonna be honest with you, y'all need to lay off the copium. Because outside of the very small facial differences and colorblind unfriendly tints, I'm struggling to find any other differences between the two. But here, instead of just talking, maybe it'll help you understand if I show you what I'm dealing with over here. Combine this with a fast-paced fight that I'm not very familiar with, and hopefully you can see why I'm a bit flustered. But that's it. That's the last I'm gonna say about it. I don't like this fight very much, and that's okay. And if you like this fight, that's okay too. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a demon prince to kill. The prince isn't too bad once you know how to space yourself appropriately, and poise breaking him lets you get off about 700 free damage, which isn't that much considering I do about 150 per swing, but it does give me room to heal, so it's not unappreciated. It was a close call, with me surviving by the skin of my teeth, but with a little luck from RNGesus, the next attack was the Prince's Laser, which opened him up to multiple free hits. Combine that with the Clutch Frostbite status trigger, and that's every demon removed from Dark Souls 3. And with them dead, I can push into the Ring City itself, home of the Pygmies, and where all Dark Souls lore goes to die. Well, we've got a few unfortunate souls still lingering about the place, so it's time to get to work.
Dost thou the gods serve, or merely that role affect?
Oh, no. Several gods have literally died by my hand. I serve only death.
Yes, of course. How wouldst one such as thee do service to the gods?
How indeed.
The abyss's curse take the gods.
Oh shit, you know what? That dude was right. We forgot to go back and kill the Nameless King. Let me just get this stupid thing out of my way real fast. There we are. And now it's just a matter of remembering the patterns. Luckily for me, I was able to make some mental room after forgetting my firstborn child's name, so we should be good to go. Did you know you can poise break the Nameless King? I don't think I've ever actually had that happen before. Definitely a testament to how much more aggressive I've been now that I've got the patterns memorized. And after breaking the Nameless King's mind, it was only a matter of time before I broke his body as well. Another god added to the pile. Funny how they look like the rest of us when they're dead, isn't it? In any case, back into the Ring City, where we've got a rumor monger spreading tales about the Abyss.
Many of us are by the fire, forsaken. I speak of thine kind and mine. Fear not the dark, my friend, and let the feast begin.
The fuck are you talking about?
One was a wayfaring knight on an endless, forbidden search. Only the Abyss granted closure, if not reunion with his beloved.
Now hold on a minute. I'm the one who grants closure, not the Abyss. Completely unappreciated, I swear. Well, he'll get his in a bit, but first, there's someone much more interesting to talk to.
Speak thee the name of God, thine own God, if thou canst recall.
Not much of a multiple choice question, is it?
Ah, then thou'st not forgotten. They who are ken to God's name are surely ken to the terrors of the dark. Please, I bid thee take not from the princess her peace or rest. As the fire waneth, does she lie by the dark, all for the sake of man.
Yeah, I can't make any promises on that one.
May I ask thee a kindness? Perhaps thou'st beheld the lone dragon that inhabited this city. I would have thee put the dragon to rest, before the dark consumeth him, and his vows are forgot.
I mean, I was gonna do that anyway, so sure, why not?
I offer my sincerest gratitude, thou who art ken to God's name.
What a strange lady. Well, no time to dwell on that now. I got some Grime protagonists to destroy. I wonder if Grime 2 is coming out anytime soon. God, I hope so. I've had a hankering to parry the world again, and Grime really knows how to scratch that particular itch. Until then, though, we've got patches to push around for a bit longer.
Oh, and here we are again. How goes things? I'm rather running in circles, I'm afraid.
Big mood, Patches. Big mood. Patches wants to find the Purging Monument, which is supposed to give memories back to any hollow that touches it. It can also bring absolution to any sinners who pray to it, but we have no need for this. My quest and my intentions are pure, and as the monument can attest, I have not sinned. But after telling Patches about the monument so he can get his memories back, I compete in a round of Boulder Dash to break up the monotony. Hey, let me in! Let me in! And once I express my displeasure to the Takeshi's Castle staff, it's on to more familiar pastures. Or should I say, Patches. Oh my god, chat, it was Patches the entire time. Who could have seen this coming? What's that? Literally everyone? Well, what about me killing Patches in the past to prevent him from kicking me in the future? Was that on your bingo card? Hey Patches, recognize this armor? No? Well, you would have!
Why me? Why me?
You know damn well why! Oh look, another liar.
And so, she lived in fear of the dark, of the things that gnawed at her flesh, and yet, the Abyss hath yet to produce any such creature.
My dude, you're drooling just looking at me. Here, let me refresh your memory.
Yes. Yes, I remember now. Let the feast begin. Let the feast begin. I shall partake.
Yes, you will, but not in the role you're thinking of. And with Midir tossed into the cavern down below, there's only a few more targets left for us to cover. We'll start with Midir since he's already dying down in the chasm. Should be an easy fight. Okay, great. So the first issue we've got is that Midir has only one weak point, his head. We do approximately 300 damage when we hit him there, but hit him anywhere else, and we're doing 160 at best. Thankfully, when we learn his moveset, there's a select few moves that open him up for plenty of damage, which means we just have to learn how to dodge his other moves, and we'll be set. And while it does take quite a few deaths to figure out the hitboxes of his attacks, we do eventually figure out the rhythm, bringing us into Midir's second phase, which means it's the perfect time to panic! Who thought fighting a dragon with a scythe was a good idea? When it comes to the second phase, I had a lot more trouble finding openings in his attack pattern, but I found just enough to do the impossible. I poise broke Midir, and with him knocked to the ground, I'm able to finally hit him where it hurts. What? Only 300 damage for all that effort? Why would, 3,000. Yeah, that's much better. And with one final push, that's Midir slain, and his soul cleansed of the darkness that was slowly eating him alive. Hey Shira, I killed Midir for you.
My most humble thanks. Please, take this, a final gift of thanks.
Really? You know what? Just for that, I'm gonna make waking your princess my top priority. Oh yeah? Well... Are you done? Cause Seriously? Thank God he's almost dead. I thought he'd never... Oh my God, shut up! God's teeth, the man is using his last breath for yapping. Your peaceful death is making everyone else suffer. Right then, time to fight these Elden Ring hooligans. Half-Light plays very defensive when he doesn't have his painting guardian friend around to play decoy, but my Scythe's chip damage is more than enough to... Well, would you look at that? I've been impaled. Okay, for realsies this time. Kill the painting guardian, then give Half-Light what for while he has his bow out and can't parry you. Then just keep up that aggression when he decides to attack you two-handed with his katana, and that's all she wrote. Which means it's time to deliver peaceful rest to the Princess Filianore. Hey, Filianore, you're dead. Just thought you should know. Sorry it took me so long to collect you. Got a bit distracted, you know how it goes. Just, go into the light or whatever. You'll be fine. All right, another one down. Hopefully me being late by a few thousand years didn't cause any problems. But with Filianore added to my collection, we've accidentally stumbled into an 8 billion for one deal, because with her death, we've officially ended the world. Now to pick off the stragglers. First on our list is Shira, who is still hiding in her room despite it no longer having doors, walls, or a ceiling.
I've searched for thee, dark-stricken creature. I am Shira, daughter of the Duke, descendant of gods, and trusted friend to Midir. At once, I am the honor of the gods, the glory of fire, and the fear of the dark. Thou shalt not go unpunished for thy treachery, thy profanity, and thy shameless yearning.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First off, you're the descendant of gods? Which ones? The internet seems to think Scythes, since you mentioned a duke, but I don't quite see it. Second off, friend of Midir? You literally told me to go kill him, you whack-a-noodle. And lastly, what is this fantastic weapon you're holding onto here? I've never seen anything like it. You know what? Don't worry about it. I'll just rip it out of your cold dead hands.
Never would I ever forgive thy lowly kind.
All right, you have a great day there, pal. The Crucifix of the Mad King. This thing is bonkers. Not only is it a halberd that does strike damage, which is already kind of weird in itself, but it does physical and dark damage, and has a weapon art called the Mad King's Folly, which, for those of you wondering, makes this weapon the Wabbajack of the Souls series. When you use the weapon art, it triggers a roar, a blessing, or a vexation, which is fancy talk for an AoE blast, the Perseverance weapon art, or a floating sphere that explodes and deals dark damage to you and all enemies around you. And yes, that is in fact an undead pygmy on the tip of the halberd, and when you slam it into the ground, it screams, because it is technically still alive. I don't know how, considering it's more bone than beast, but one thing's for sure, this weapon is metal as hell. But enough about that. Time to finish the few remaining souls who managed to somehow escape the end of the world. Starting with this poor sap.
Filianore, help me, please. The Red Hood is come to eat us, to eat our dark souls.
So, Filianor's a bit preoccupied with being dead at the moment, but don't worry, I've got all the time in the world.
Filianor, help me.
Worshipping a false goddess, all the way to the end. But with the dying pygmy now the dead pygmy, we've got one last NPC in the DLC to carry to the afterlife. Slave Knight Gale. Finally, a boss that just feels natural to fight for me. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Gale is a better version of Artorias and is a delight to fight. And with his first phase cleared with ease, it's on to Gale Part 2, Dark Souls Boogaloo. Aggression is the name of the game here. Always dodge towards him, never away, and you'll avoid 90% of his attacks. Simultaneously, you have to avoid being greedy. Squeeze your attacks in between his combos, but save stamina for the dodging you'll have to do to stay alive. Get hit by one of Gale's combos, and you're gonna watch your health bar drop from 100 to 0 real fast. But after an hour or so of grinding him out, it's finally over. The Reaper takes another Dark Soul, and the Ring City DLC is fully complete. Which means we've only got one more stop to make. Back to Firelink Shrine, for the last time. I believe these belong to you.
Ashen One, are these eyes? How gracious of thee, Ashen One. The very things we Firekeepers have been missing. But Firekeepers are not meant to have eyes. It is forbidden. These will reveal through a sliver of light frightful images of betrayal. A world without fire. Ashen One, is this truly thy wish?
It is. This world has run its course. Let ash return to ash.
Of course. I serve thee, and will do as thou bidst.
And with that, it's time to clear Firelink Shrine of its loyal inhabitants. As for you, Ludleth, you've one more part to play, and I know you'll play it faithfully. And so the lords have returned to their thrones, in one form or another. Ludleth gives the last of his strength to me, as do the rest of the lord's souls that I've collected, and with their power, we go at last to the final inhabitant of this broken world, the one trying so desperately to keep it all together. Back to the kiln, back to Gwyn, back to the Lord of Cinder. Did you really think you could hold on to the light? After so many failed attempts, are you truly still holding on to hope that you can avoid the end? A fool's errand. No one can stop death. Not even a being that fancies himself a god. Finally, you show your true face. A cheat. Can't even win properly. Go back to the dark that spawned you. Okay, time out. I need to break character for a second. What just happened? Did the Soul of Cinder just glitch out and completely skip his second phase? Well, yeah. Yeah, he did. Turns out, not only was this parry complete bullshit, but it actually broke the boss. There's very few records of it, but it seems that if the boss parries you towards the end of his life bar, and you kill him quickly enough afterwards, the game glitches out and skips the entire second phase of the fight. And I just so happened to be streaming it on the second channel when it happened. Get out of here, shut up. Wait, what? Wait. Huh? No, I'm confused. Hold on. Wait. What just happened? Hello? Where did phase 2 go? I don't... What? Well, all things considered, it's a fitting end for the Usurper of Flame, wouldn't you say? But enough is enough. It's time to extinguish the fire that should have died eons ago. The Firekeeper completes her duty and takes what paltry strength remains in the first flame. And in the dying light, I complete mine. And so, the first flame becomes the last. 'Tis dark for now, and not a soul stirs. But remember, fires are known to fade in quiet.